don't want to pile up student loan and get another loan, because remember, when you do a 4-year college and you took student loans, you are only entitled to one federal aid student loans, Hope Scholarship and all that. And Hope Scholarship, of course, is based on your GPA. When you decide to go and get your master's, you might have to apply for a private loan, because the government offers student loans. Well, at least when I was in college, it offers student loans, and you apply for it and you get it. And you can also apply for Hope Scholarship if your GPA is, I believe, 3.0 and above. I'm not sure if it's still the same, but you're gonna have this on your credit. So my advice, again, this is what I wish somebody had told me when I started in the industry. If you want to grow in this field, there's so many areas in this field that you can grow. So I'm going to just talk about it. First thing you can do after the 2-year degree, number one, was you can move on and become an imaging engineer, make a 6-figure income easily, and no one cares if you have a 4-year degree or not. As long as you have an associate degree, you have the job experience, you can get there. Most of the companies, when they hire you, like the biomedical companies, hospitals, clinics, when they hire you as a biomedical engineer, let's just say level 1, level 2, level 3, at level 3, after you've grown up in the career a little bit, you can move forward into becoming an imaging engineer within the same company, or taking a job in a different company and becoming an imaging engineer. Straight up 6-figure income if you're good, technically. But let's just say that's not really the route you want to go, but you still have a biomedical engineer degree and you work in the industry, but you don't really want to take it any further. One of the things you can get is PMP certification. It is offered by PMI, Project Management Institute. The PMP exam is what you get a certification as a project manager. However, you have to apply for it and you have to be eligible. In order for you to be eligible, you have to have education in project management and you have to have a work experience in project management. That can be easily achieved as a biomedical engineer. Because think about it, as a biomedical, and this is based on my experience being in the industry and me doing it, how I became a project manager. I did the biomedical engineering degree, 4 years, came out, worked with it, and then got my master's and specialized in project management. I did not need to get a master's. I could have easily just worked in biomedical but manage projects, because when you service equipment in different clinics, these are considered projects. You are managing a project. There is the monthly PMs that you take care of. There's the inventory validation, the equipment. All of that can be considered as project. It really depends on the title that the company you work for create. But you also need to take some few courses. There's so many areas to take courses. Udemy is one of them. When you Google it, there's so many training courses out there that you can do to be eligible to sit for PMP exams. Once you take the PMP exams and become PMP certified, you are a project manager. So now at this point, you are not just a biomedical engineer with a 2-year degree. You are also a project manager. And as a project manager, the sky becomes the limit. So now let's think about it for a second, because this is what I did. Now you have a biomedical engineering degree. You have the job experience, and then you have a PMP certification, right? What can you do with both degree? I'm going to tell you. With a biomedical engineering degree and a project management degree, you can either choose to combine this as one career, or you can have 2 different careers easily. As a biomedical engineer, you have the ability to go into clinical research, which is how I ended up in clinical research. How? Look for a company that is a biotechnology company, life science or pharmaceutical. This is what they do. They are more involved in clinical research. You still can bring your background in biomedical, because guess what? Clinical research is not just drugs. There are also medical device clinical research. This is how I got into the industry, because my background is biomedical engineering, and then the project management came in together, joined together. I still do work for a scientific company. I've worked for a biotechnology company. I've worked for pharmaceutical company. One of the way to really broaden your background or your knowledge is try to take contracts. You have a full-time job, but also be a consultant. The more you learn this in industry, the more you have the ability to become that person. Now, okay, you have the biomedical engineer, you have the project management background, you've gone into pharmaceutical or biotechnology world and you've worked there for years. You easily can switch those two backgrounds and become what we call either a clinical research associate, clinical research coordinator, the list goes on, validation engineer. What did I do? Mine, I still work as a biomedical engineer. Love it. I use my project management background. Still haven't written the PMP exams because I found a different path. Now, as a project manager, you can also take the ACRP certification, which is a combination of clinical research and project manager, and become that, branch into that field. A clinical research project manager is normally a manager that manages clinical research associate. But you're not just going to get up and achieve that. It's going to take a lot of learning, a lot of certifications in order for you to get there. One of the first certifications you can take is a CRC certification, Clinical Research Coordinator certification. And you can get this at ACRP website or CITTI. There are so many training out there. Some of it is called GCP training, good clinical practices. There are GMP training that you can get in a different site. That's good manufacturing practices. All this world, I call it, is a big circle with so many ways. I also have worked as a validation engineer. And what I did was I worked with a GMP company. It's a CDMO company, contract development management organization. And what I did was write SOPs. I utilized my project management background, and I also utilized my biomedical engineering background, and I became a validation engineer, validating medical devices that I use in a CDMO organization, from the lab all the way to manufacturing, commercial manufacturing of the drugs. And being a validation engineer automatically qualifies you as a quality engineer, because that's exactly what you do. You validate a quality management system. And so those two comes hand in hand, a QA and a validation engineer. Validation engineer can become a QA can become a validation engineer. Learn, study these industries. There's so many routes. This is how I was able to open a consulting firm that does all the various means of this world. So I can work as a CRA, clinical research associate, because I have been doing monitoring for years now. And it started out with me going into life science, biotechnology, and pharmaceutical. And so now I don't just know this industry from the preclinical aspect of it. I know it from preclinical all the way to commercial scale-up manufacturing, where two things happen in scale-up. They either produce the drugs, they produce the drugs in quantity where it can be used for clinical research. But once everything is done and they apply for an NDA and drugs is going to be marketed, they have to produce the drugs commercially, a lot, for them to be able to sell. And that has to also go through a GMP site. And GMP site falls under FDA regulations. There are some way they need to be validated. Every process, the data, the quality data, there need to be SOPs, has to be written in the quality data. The list goes on. So you move from a biomedical engineer with a 2-year degree, didn't get a master's if you can afford it, but you went into taking a CRC certification, which is GMP centered, like I said, in ACRP or through City, and then you got into life science, either as a biomedical or just doing clinical research. My advice is combine both. Biomedical engineer, working in the biotechnology industry, managing devices and life science. You go to labs, clinical research sites, and that's how your world as a clinical research associate begins. I took the validation job for the whole of this year I did that in order to get that background. So now I am able to write an SOPs to validate GMP site and also clinical research sites. And that's how I was able to open a clinical research site, because I've been a monitor forever. I've been in the industry for the last 16 years. You can also become just a quality engineer. If you have a background as a biomedical engineer, you've worked into, and one thing you need to know as a biomedical engineer, you do qualify these medical devices. It's called an IQ, OQ, IPV. In the GMP site, it's called IQ, OQ, PQ. Same thing. IQ is installation qualification. OQ is operational qualification. IPV is installation process verification. Don't quote me on this. I have to kind of really remember what it is. But the whole idea of it is qualification, validation, which is a number one thing when it comes to GMP sites or anything that is used in clinical research and clinical trials. So you can easily become also a computer system validation engineer, which I fall under too as my job as a validation engineer. What am I saying this to? I'm telling you that you can go anywhere in this industry. There's so much more that I haven't talked about. But you do not have to pile up student loans to achieve this. Be a learning person, being a research person that research on what to do, where to do, how to go. I'm going to end today's videos. I will talk about more of this as time goes on. I intend to write a book about this because I want to write a book where someone can pick up from high school and be able to have a career roadmap all the way to the top, where you can own your own company, you can work for a company and be a consultant on the side and do very well in the industry. The sky is the limit in this world. Thank you for listening to me. I will be back with another video. Bye.